Yo guys, I've been thinking I haven't made an educational video in a while, so I'm gonna make one now, and it will be called "Is Democracy Real?" You'll be hearing a little Pepe on the background. He's a bird and he's a proud member of the Communist Party. I told him it's a bad idea, but what can you do with fucking teenagers, right? Alright, shut the fuck up, Pepe. And yeah, since you guys enjoyed my paint skills a lot in the last time, then I decided to use them again. So what I wanna start with here is look at the ruling system, political systems throughout the past, right? So in the prehistory ages, it was always one man, one rule, right? Or the strongest one rules. Is basically a law that still exists in the animal world, and it was the first way to rule people. We will be looking at two charts. One is from the point of the 1%, basically the ones that rule, and the one is from the point of 99%, which you can't actually see properly. There you go. Then obviously the world developed. It was still one person in the role. This time it was king though, which I guess you could call the richest rule. I mean, it wasn't that simple, but yeah, I guess you could call it that, right? So that was the second period. Then it started to be more complicated, and we finally created monarchy, which means king rules but listens to council. That is basically what monarchy, or I guess that is constitutional const monarchy, right? Alright. So we moved to that, then we guess we could call the next part of the development communism, and then the final democracy. Obviously we skipped some. It is not all the political systems we had, but it's like the main systems that defined our history, right? So now we're gonna basically draw a curve, right? So the strongest one rules, it's only one person, right? That is how it is. King, the richest rule, is also one person. Then the council comes, and the communism comes, and finally the democracy comes, right? So how are we gonna draw the curve? Well, the first one is obvious, it's only one person. Then since council comes, I actually need to make a new one. Then obviously the number increases by quite a bit. That is, then communism comes, the number increases by quite a bit again, right? And then finally democracy comes. Democracy, as far as I know, is supposed to be the rule of all the people, which means that democracy basically is 100%, right? It is not actually defined by this. I actually guess I'll just paint it. It's gonna be easier to see. So basically the increase is a big, but not as big. And why is it so ugly? Paint skills. So yeah, it starts growing, right? And communism starts growing more. and then democracy is basically like this curve, right? That is basically how it's supposed to be. First one rules, then couple rule, then a lot rule, and democracy everyone rules. But what I want to also look at is from the 99% perspective, as in, do the 99% know who rules, right? So the strongest one rules, everyone knows it, right? The king rules, everyone knows it as well. So the chart will start the vice versa, everyone knows on the top. When the council comes, well then they know obviously their king, but not everyone knows the council, so they do not know actually everyone, so the curve goes down. In communism, the curve goes down a lot because it is very hard to keep track of who actually rules. And in the democracy, well, it's only like president, but the president doesn't actually rules, right? It is not how it is. It's democracy, everyone rules, right? So basically what these two charts are supposed to show you is what happened to them when the democracy came, right? So you can see on the 1% how's it supposed to be, who rules. You can see that the curve is very, very parabolic. It is not that likely that it happens. It is basically from, I don't know, communism, how many people ruled? It was like 10% to 100%. That is an insane rise. Well, how do 99% people look at it? You can see this fall is way more explainable than this rise, right? So basically what this chart is supposed to show you is that it is more likely that democracy doesn't actually exist in the word, in the explanation of a word that we know it as. That was the worst sentence I ever said. It is more likely. That is what this is supposed to show. And I guess I can now talk about why isn't democracy actually real. It's Pepe, can you shut the fuck up? Basically, we are supposed to think that we all rule, we all have a vote, we all affect everything, right? But that is simply not correct. I mean, it is not like we haven't had million cases of manipulation throughout 20th and 21st century. And even if you look at, I don't know, the good old cults, where everyone was basically retarded. I heard a cult where a guy was cutting off women limbs and put them as a sacrifice to God. I think he just had the transplantation fetish or whatever it's called, and he just jacked off to women without limbs. But yeah, he actually convinced them that they're doing it for the God. To the good old Coca-Cola advertisement in the movie, where in cinema there was a "Shut the fuck up, Pepe!" Where in the cinema they basically showed a movie and there were like blinking Coca-Cola subliminal advertisement that you couldn't actually see, but when they looked at how many people bought Coca-Cola after the cinema, they found out way more bought it than if they didn't have the subliminal advertisement in it. So we know that there are ways to manipulate people either drastically or very, very stealthily. Which means that if democracy requires 50% or more people, respectively, not even 50%, it's like the majority, right? The majority group of people to vote one direction. It is not that hard to do as long as you have money, right? You can do it through billboards, you can do it through advertisement in shop centers, in television, on the internet. We know Google is hiding many, many results based on the agenda they actually want. The same YouTube does. Everyone does that. Which means if there would be 1% of people wanting to rule the world, then they could do it in a system called democracy where everyone is ruling just by manipulating the majority into going their way. And I'm basically saying that is what is happening. It is... Shut the fuck up, Pepe. I'd say it's very easily explained on in America, right? Because in United States you can see all the bullshit that's happening. Like, for example, that like the NA is constantly raping the Middle East, even though the Middle East did basically nothing to them until America actually went there. We saw ISIS, what weapons they actually fighting with. It's tanks from Americans. They actually made those tanks and they left them there after the war in Iraq. So the entire war in Middle East is caused by America, yet every single person in America, or the civilians, respectively the majority of them, agrees with it. And they agree that their own children, their 20-year-olds, go into war and potentially die for their nation, even though Middle East was never a danger to America until America attacked them. But through manipulation, you can convince all those people that is not the case, even though it obviously is if you actually study it. And they can actually force them to think they actually want to attack Middle East, which they shouldn't, because they're basically the aggressors. They are not the defending country. That is not the case. So yeah, democracy doesn't actually exist. Obviously, it's a speculative topic. It's a theory, I guess. I don't have an actual concrete proof. I can't actually name you every single person that is in the rule, even though some for me are very obvious, like the Rothschilds, for example, right? Those are like very, very obvious. So yeah, or the Bushes. That is how I see democracy. That is why I never voted, not for a political side or for a president. I never will vote, because my vote does not actually change anything, and not just because it's one vote, but because I can't change the direction of the majority that is manipulated one way. I just can't do that with that one vote, because if you have enough money, you can always guarantee you will have majority and your vote won't change that. Thanks, Pepe, for making my fucking educational video an absolute earache. We all appreciate it, you fuck. So thank you for watching and see you at the next episode.